Winter hits and suddenly every plant in the house looks like it is questioning your life choices. The heat is blasting, the windows are shut tight, and the sun feels like it went on vacation. That is exactly when most houseplants throw a tantrum, but succulents are built different. These little desert legends do not mind dry air and shorter days nearly as much as your leafy divas. In fact, some of them actually slow down and chill out in winter instead of dying on you. Today I am breaking down the best indoor succulents that survive cold months without drama. No complicated care routines, no grow lights everywhere, just smart plant choices. If your winter goal is to keep your place green with minimal effort, you are in the right spot. Echeveria Topsy Turvy is the kind of succulent that makes winter feel less depressing because its upside-down blue-green leaves look like tiny frozen waves, and it keeps its shape even when the air inside your house drops below 40% humidity, which is where most tropical plants start to suffer. It naturally goes semi-dormant in winter, so it needs about 50% less water than summer, meaning you can forget it for 10 to 14 days without any guilt. Research from indoor plant studies shows succulents lose moisture slower in cool rooms around 18 to 22 degrees, which is exactly where most homes sit in winter. This plant still holds color with just 3 to 4 hours of weak daylight near a window, so no fancy grow lights are needed. The thick waxy coating on its leaves reduces evaporation, which is why it does not shrivel when heaters are running all day. It also stays compact under low light instead of stretching like many succulents do, so your shelf still looks neat. As long as the soil is gritty and dry between watering, it almost never gets root rot, which is the main winter killer. And when spring finally comes, it often surprises you with coral-colored blooms after surviving months of cold indoor conditions like nothing ever happened. Haworthia Cooperi is basically the chill roommate of the succulent world because it actually prefers the softer light and cooler indoor temps that winter brings, staying happy around 18 to 24 degrees while most plants are begging for summer. Its plump, transparent leaf tips act like tiny windows that let light reach deep into the plant, so it still photosynthesizes even on gloomy days with just 2 to 3 hours of weak sun. This is why studies on light diffusion in succulents show Haworthia types outperform many rosette plants in low-light rooms. During winter, it only needs watering about every 2 weeks since growth slows by nearly 50%, which massively cuts the risk of overwatering when humidity drops below 40% indoors. The thick leaves store enough moisture to survive dry heater air without shriveling. It stays compact so you never deal with leggy stretching, and it is one of the few succulents that can live a meter away from a window and still look fresh when winter is at its worst. Jewel leaf plant earns its winter crown because those deep green glossy leaves are packed with moisture, so the plant barely flinches when indoor humidity crashes into the 30s from nonstop heating. It naturally slows growth in cold months, which means you only need to water it every 10 to 14 days compared to weekly in summer. Research on succulent water retention shows thick leaf species like this lose up to 40% less moisture at room temperatures around 20 degrees. It tolerates short, dull days with just a couple hours of filtered light without dropping color. The compact shape keeps it from stretching toward the window, and because the roots like dry, gritty soil, it almost never develops winter rot, which is why even beginners manage to keep it alive through January and February when most houseplants are already done for. Pachyphytum Compactum is a winter beast because those chunky faceted leaves are basically water tanks that hold enough moisture to cruise through dry heated rooms without shriveling. It is comfortable in cooler indoor temps around 16 to 22 degrees, which matches most homes in winter. Growth slows by nearly half, so watering every 12 to 15 days is more than enough, and that alone cuts winter root rot risk by a huge margin. The thick powdery coating on the leaves reduces evaporation, so even when humidity drops below 40%, it keeps its shape. It only needs 3 to 4 hours of soft daylight to stay compact, which makes it perfect for gloomy months. And because it naturally stays tight instead of stretching, your shelf still looks clean and sculptural even when the sun barely shows up. Echeveria Black Prince is one of those winter succulents that somehow looks better when the days get shorter because the cooler indoor temps around 18 to 22 degrees deepen its dark purple color instead of washing it out. The thick leaves store enough water to handle dry heater air, so you can stretch watering to once every 12 to 14 days without stress. Studies on succulent metabolism show water use drops by nearly 40% in winter, which is why this plant is way harder to kill in January than July. It still holds tight rosettes with just a few hours of weak window light, so it does not turn leggy, and the waxy leaf surface slows moisture loss, making it a solid choice when your home humidity dips into the 30s. Echeveria Gibbiflora is a winter-friendly showpiece because its massive fleshy leaves act like built-in reservoirs that let it ride out dry indoor air without collapsing. It is happiest in the cooler 18 to 22 degree range that most homes naturally sit at in winter. Growth slows hard during these months, so watering every 2 weeks is usually plenty, which cuts the biggest killer of winter succulents, which is soggy soil. Research on leaf succulents shows large leaf species retain up to 45% more moisture than thin leaf plants in cool conditions. It keeps its bold shape with just a few hours of filtered daylight and does not stretch easily, so your plant still looks dramatic even when the sun barely shows up. Lithops Karasmontana is the ultimate winter survivor because it is literally designed to live off stored water for months. Its split stone-like leaves hold enough moisture that in winter you can go 3 to 4 weeks without watering and it will not even blink. Studies on desert succulents show Lithops species reduce water use by over 60% in cool seasons, which is why overwatering is the real danger, not dryness. It prefers cooler indoor temps around 16 to 20 degrees, which lines up perfectly with winter homes. The compact body loses very little moisture to heater air, and it only needs a few hours of pale daylight to stay firm and colorful, making it one of the safest bets when everything else in your house looks tired. Baby Toes is one of those weird little succulents that feels made for winter because its chubby upright leaves are basically tiny water silos that let it coast through dry heated rooms without shriveling. In cooler months its growth rate drops close to 50%, so watering every 3 weeks is usually enough. Research on window leaf succulents shows they can maintain photosynthesis with very low light thanks to their translucent tips, which is why Baby Toes stays plump even when winter days are short. It prefers indoor temps around 18 to 20 degrees and actually looks worse in summer heat, and the compact clumping habit keeps it neat and stress-free on your windowsill when the rest of your plants are throwing fits. Aeonium Zwartkop is a winter star because unlike most succulents it actually wakes up when the weather cools down. Its active growth season is fall through early spring, which means in winter it is not just surviving, it is thriving. Indoor temps around 16 to 22 degrees trigger fresh leaf growth while summer heat shuts it down. It uses about 30% less water than summer, so light watering every 10 to 14 days is enough. The dark burgundy rosettes hold color even in low winter light, and studies on Aeonium growth cycles show they maintain tighter leaf structure in cooler rooms. So while other succulents nap through winter, this one is busy looking like a dramatic houseplant centerpiece. Haworthia Reinwardtii is built for winter living because its stacked armored leaves store enough moisture to ignore dry heater air without shriveling. It prefers moderate indoor temps around 18 to 24 degrees, which is exactly where most homes sit in cold months. Growth slows by almost half, so watering every 2 weeks keeps it happy without risking rot. Its tolerance for shade means it still looks sharp with just a couple hours of weak daylight, which is backed by studies on Haworthia light efficiency in low sun environments. And the tight column shape never stretches, so your plant shelf still looks clean even when winter light is terrible. Ruby Necklace is one of those winter succulents that feels like it is cheating the season because the cooler temps around 16 to 22 degrees push its leaves to turn deeper purple instead of fading. The trailing stems store moisture so well that in winter you can water every 12 to 15 days without stress. Research on Othana species shows their water use drops by nearly 40% in cool indoor conditions, which is why they tolerate dry heater air far better than most hanging plants. It keeps its compact bead-like shape even with short gloomy days, and because it hates soggy soil it is far more likely to die from too much love than from neglect in January. Sunrise Succulent is a winter mood lifter because the cooler indoor temps around 18 to 22 degrees actually intensify the red and orange edges instead of dulling them. The thick fleshy leaves slow moisture loss, so it handles heater dry air without wrinkling. During winter growth drops close to 40%, so watering every 2 weeks is plenty and greatly lowers the risk of rot. Studies on color stress in succulents show cooler nights boost pigmentation, which is why this plant looks more vibrant in January than July, and it only needs a few hours of soft daylight to stay tight and colorful when the sun is barely showing. Aichryson Dumosum is one of those winter-friendly succulents that feels like it was made for apartments because it actually prefers the cooler 18 to 22 degree range that most homes sit at in winter. The fuzzy spoon-shaped leaves trap a thin layer of air that slows moisture loss, so it does not crisp up when heaters dry the room. Growth rate drops by nearly 50% in cold months, which means watering every 10 to 14 days is more than enough. Research on leaf pubescence shows hairy-leaved succulents retain moisture longer in low humidity environments. It tolerates short, dull days without stretching, so it keeps its bushy look even when winter light is weak. Moon Cactus is a winter favorite because that bright grafted top barely grows at all in cold months, so it does not ask much from you. It is comfortable in indoor temps around 18 to 24 degrees and actually dislikes summer heat more than winter chill. Since its growth rate drops hard, you only need to water every 2 weeks, which helps avoid the soggy soil that kills most succulents in January. The colorful top holds its neon red, yellow, or orange tones even in low winter light because the green rootstock does the photosynthesis work. and studies on grafted cactus survival show they use significantly less water in cooler indoor environments, which is why this little alien-looking plant keeps shining when everything else looks tired. Queen Victoria Agave is basically winter-proof because its thick triangular leaves are packed so tightly that moisture loss is incredibly slow even when indoor humidity drops into the 30s. It thrives in cooler rooms around 16 to 20 degrees, which is why it is often grown in conservatories through cold seasons. Growth nearly stops in winter, so watering once every 3 weeks is usually enough and massively reduces rot risk. Research on agave species shows they cut water use by more than 40% in low-temperature conditions, and the crisp white markings stay sharp with just a few hours of weak daylight, so it still looks like a living sculpture on your shelf when the sun is hiding. Winter does not have to be the season where your plant shelf turns into a graveyard, because with the right succulents you can keep color, shape and life in your home even when the air is dry and the days are short. Every plant we covered today is built to slow down, use less water and handle low light, so you spend less time worrying and more time enjoying your space. If you want more easy plant wins like this, make sure to subscribe, hit like and drop a comment with the succulent you are adding to your winter lineup so we can grow this indoor jungle together.